Hey there, I'm Ben Gray. I'm on a V-Strom 650, and today I'm in North Georgia on my favorite road, which is Georgia Highway 60. As we get close to the intersection where Highway 60 peels north off 9, and the riding gets really good, let me tell you the story of the Cherokee Indian princess named Trahlyta. Trahlyta, as legend goes, had found the fountain of youth, and this water that she drank made her incredibly beautiful, the most beautiful princess in all the land. Well, word got out how beautiful she was, so she had many, many, many suitors, which she turned down all of. And then there was one called Wasaga. Wasaga was a warrior, and he decided he wouldn't take no for an answer. So Wasaga kidnapped Trahlyta and brought her away from her home, kept her tied up. And she fought and argued and asked to leave and asked to go home, but he wouldn't relent. And because she didn't have the water to drink, she began to age, and she got old and became frail. And on her dying bed, she asked one final wish as she cried tears of gold. She wanted to be brought back to where she lived, back to her home, and be buried. And she asked that any traveler that came by would stop and put a rock on her grave to commemorate her. And in return, she would grant them good fortune. So, anytime you come up here, if you're gonna ride, there's one thing you have to do. You have to bring a rock. And before you hit Highway 60, you've got to come to Trahlyta's grave and place your rock for good luck. Now it's time to ride. Let's have some fun. This stretch of the road is fantastic. I fell in love with it 25 years ago when I first started coming up to the mountains. You know, God, I don't even know how to describe it. Perfect turns, you got a lot of left-right chicanes, so you can really flip the bike back and forth. When you're headed north, it's uphill the entire way. So you're coming into a turn, you can just roll off the throttle and it slows you down. Coming down, you got to be a little more aggressive on the brakes because it is pretty steep and you've got some really sharp turns. Some of the turns along here go down to 20, even 15 miles an hour, and you got to really pay attention. But the good thing is there's very little gravel on the road. You don't have a lot of stuff you're going to slip on, and you can keep your grip. Just keep on going. Not a lot of traffic either. The road is generally pretty quiet during the week. I'm here on a Monday afternoon, and there's a couple of bikes come by, and a couple of cars come by, and a little bit of local traffic, but really not much. I mean, I rode from the south to the north and didn't run into any traffic until I got to Woody Gap, so that's pretty amazing. So as great as this section of Highway 60 is, which is from north of Dahlonega, from the rock pile basically, up to the Gap, it continues. Most motorcyclists will either stop at the gap and turn around and go back down, or maybe they'll go to Suches and take Highway 180, which is a fantastic road. But one of my favorite things to do is to keep going north, and you can go all the way up into Tennessee. And the section north of Suches is, I'd say, equally as good, if not better. I've dreamed about owning a motorcycle from as long as I can remember. I mean, I don't remember an age when I didn't want to be on a motorcycle. Unfortunately, my parents wouldn't let me have one, so it wasn't until I was an adult that I got one. But I remember as a kid I remember looking out the window of the car as we were driving places and dreaming about being on a dirt bike on the median of the highway and like jumping over the embankments and things like that. Just always wanted to do it, always wanted that freedom. And I think it probably came from a love of my bicycle. I loved riding, I had a little BMX bike that I rode everywhere, and I felt so free and like I could go anywhere and do anything when I was on the bike. And really, that's the same feeling I get on the motorcycle. Sometimes I'll be, lost in thought on a mountain road, and it takes me right back to being a kid again. And that's just the best feeling in the world. My first bike was a 1977 Yamaha RD400 two-stroke. Knew nothing about bikes, bought it in Florida. I'd been sitting under a blanket in a woman's garage for 10 years and just fell in love. Moved to Atlanta a few years later and turned it kind of into a cafe racer and actually brought it up here and rode Highway 60 on it. That was the only bike I had, and I had to get up to the mountains, and I absolutely loved it. But it also made me realize I needed a different bike. So even though that was my first bike and probably, still has a place in my heart, so it's probably still my favorite bike that I've ever owned, I ended up having to buy something else. So I bought a Suzuki SV650, and that was the perfect bike for these type of mountain roads. And I came up here every weekend, every day off. So I've ridden Highway 60 hundreds of times. That was fun. Never gets old.